Hello and welcome to session 2 of Cooking and Nutrition Tips with Sue. Session 1 was all about the 4 food groups and why our body needs them every day in order to do its best job for us, and we cooked up the tuna pasta pie. And in session 2 we're going to talk about the good fats and oils and the fats and oils that aren't quite so good for us, and we're also going to make a chicken and chickpea curry for the family. Hopefully it'll feed a family of 6. So I think we'll get started on the recipe because we need to be getting that cooking while we're chatting about the nutrition later. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the ingredients. The chicken and chickpea curry is on page 16 of this Mata Food Bank cookbook, and you can find that on the matafoodbank.co.nz website, and we're on page 16. So the ingredients we've got today for the curry are 2 tablespoons of oil, and I've chosen canola oil because it can actually help lower our high cholesterol if we've got problems with that. 1 onion, here we go, and then 2 tablespoons of crushed garlic. I've got it in a jar here. You can use fresh garlic and chop it up if you want to, but this is just easy to grab out of the fridge. 1 chicken breast, and I actually have already chopped that up, and I got it on special, a large chicken breast for $3, so it was really good value. 2 tablespoons of curry powder, got that here. 1 can of chopped up tomatoes, that's them there. And we've got 2 cups of water. I've already poured that out in a jug. We've got 1 can of chickpeas, and I've already drained those so they've got no juice left in them. And then 3 cups of mixed vegetables, and there they are, ready to go. Okay, so the first step is to heat the oil in a large pot, which I've already done. So I heated that canola oil up. And then you're meant to have chopped up the onion into small pieces, so I've already done that, and I've already put it in the pot, and I've cooked it up for a couple of minutes just so it's transparent and ready to go. So we've done that. So let's get on to the next step, which is add the garlic, the meat, and the curry powder. So it's 2 teaspoons of garlic. So I'll just get that going. And it's 2 tablespoons of curry powder, plain old curry powder. And the chicken. So I've already chopped that up, it's ready to go. Let's get that in there. Going to give that a stir and get it back on the stove while we're chatting about the good and the bad fats. Okay, so the good fats. So the scientific name for the good fats is unsaturated fats because they are full of that good stuff. They're unsaturated, okay? And the good fats and oils, the way we can tell them, an easy way to tell them is at room temperature like this, they are either runny, like this canola oil, or they are soft. And I've got some table spread here, and quite often table spread is made out of whipped up canola oil, and so it's nice and soft as well. So that is an easy way of finding out whether you think it's a good or a not so good fat or oil, runny or soft, okay? And these unsaturated fats and oils, they come from plants, and they also come from fish. So over here on my left, I've got some canola oil, which comes from the rapeseed plant. I've got some olive oil, which comes from olives. I've got some sesame seed oil from sesame seeds. I've even got some chili oil from chilies. And you've also got rice bran oil from rice. You've got sunflower oil from sunflower seeds. So the good ones come from plants, and they also come from fish. So here I've got a tin of tuna, and so the tuna oil, which is quite runny, is a good oil, an unsaturated one as well. And I've also actually got an avocado here, because I know we can make avocado oil from the avocado by crushing it. And also if we cut into a ripe avocado, it's nice and soft. So the good fats and oils, the unsaturated fats and oils are either runny or soft. Okay, I'm just going to give this a stir. So what about those ones that aren't quite so good for us? Well, they are called saturated fats, because they're saturated with the things that aren't quite so good for us. And the way we tell whether an oil or a fat is a good one or one that's not quite so good is the ones that aren't so good for us are either hard at room temperature, and I've got a block of butter here and you can see it's rock hard, or they are thick at room temperature, and I've got some cream here and it's very, very thick. So that's an easy way of telling it. Either they're hard or they're thick. And they come from animals. So they are the animal fats, plus there's 2 tropical oils. So let's talk about those animal fats first. So when you cook up the roast, a roast chicken or a roast beef or a roast lamb or roast pork, and you get those juices in the bottom of the pan, if you just leave those juices in the pan on the bench, they go hard, okay? And we're going to talk about why that's a problem in a minute. So they actually do go hard, those animal fats. And that becomes something called lard. So that's an easy way to remember it, is lard goes hard, okay? So that's the animal fat, or the chicken fat. And then from a cow, from an animal, we get milk. And if we milk the cow and we've got the milk, the cream actually rises to the top, that very thick cream. And it's full of saturated fat as well. The milk isn't, that's got all the good stuff that we talked about in session 1. But the cream, the thick cream that rises to the top, has a lot of saturated fats in it. And the cream gets whipped up and made into butter that's hard at room temperature. Okay, so that's our animal fats that aren't quite so good for us. And I'm going to talk to you about the tropical oils. I'm just going to give this one more stir. Now there's also 2 tropical oils that are saturated fats, or not quite so good for us. And one of them is from the coconut tree, so that's coconut oil. So here I've got a little little bottle of coconut oil that someone gave me, but it's rock hard. I can't put it on my skin because it's gone hard at room temperature. Okay, and from the coconut we also get coconut cream. And I've got a little tin of coconut cream here. And it's very thick, like the cream from the cow, okay? So that's one of our tropical oils. The other one is called palm oil, and it comes from a certain type of palm tree that has a palm nut that they crush and get the oil out of it. They grow a lot of the trees in Indonesia, and they make palm oil out of it. And a lot of our baked goods, our biscuits, our cakes and that sort of thing are cooked in palm oil because it's cheap. And also our fish and chips, believe it or not, they deep fry our fish and chips in it. So it's a good idea when you go into the fish and chip shop to ask them, do they use canola oil? Because a lot of them are using canola oil now. Or do they use palm oil? And palm oil, just like the coconut oil, it goes hard at room temperature. Okay, so those are our two, our good fats and oils and our not so good fats and oils. And I'm not saying don't have these ones that aren't so good for us, but we should be having them in smaller amounts, okay? We might water down the coconut cream and just don't have the cream all the time and spread that butter thinly, okay? And mainly be having these nice liquid or runny ones or soft ones most of the time. Okay, so let's get our pot back and our curry and add some more ingredients. Smelling really, really good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add the tomatoes. Here we go. And they're just a supermarket brand. We talked about that in session 1. They're cheaper than the fancy brands and just as good. And we're going to add our drained chickpeas. That's going in. And we're going to add our water. I'm just going to take it over the stove to do that because I might make a mess. Okay, and just why are these saturated fats not so good for us? Well, in our bodies we've got all these little hoses or tubes called arteries which carry the blood to all the organs around our bodies. And these arteries, this is just a piece of tubing, but they're about that size or a little bit smaller, and they're normally nice and flexible like that, so the blood is moving through the hoses or the arteries. But if we eat a lot of these hard or thick saturated fats, after a while the hoses or the arteries start to get blocked up inside, okay? So it's really hard for the blood to move through and take the oxygen around our bodies. And if this happens in our heart or in our brains, if they get too blocked up, we can start feeling pain in our hearts, something called angina. And then if they get really blocked up in our heart, we could have a heart attack, experience a heart attack. And in our brain, we might experience a stroke. The other thing that happens is they get blocked up and then they get very stiff as well. So they're not nice and flexible like this. They'll be like this. And if they are stiff like this, it means the blood can't flow through as easily, and there's blockages there as well, and it puts our blood pressure up, okay? And that damages all the organs in our body. So that's why we really need to be having more of these unsaturated or the good fats and oils and less of these saturated ones, if we possibly can in the day. Okay, so let's have a look. I can probably put our vegetables in now. I'll just grab the pot. And these vegetables, they were just the frozen ones, and they're a supermarket brand as well, because in session 1 we talked about this, that the frozen ones are just as good as those fresh ones. And you saw that I put the vegetables in last. That was the last ingredient to go in, because heating vegetables have a lot of vitamin B and vitamin C in them, but if you heat them up too much and for too long, you can kill the vitamin B or decrease the vitamin B and the vitamin C. So I've put them in last. So we're just going to heat the curry through, but not boil it and boil it and boil it, because we still want those vitamin Bs and Cs to help keep us well. So that's our last ingredient in there. And so I'm just going to cost it with you just to see, and I've got a huge pot full there. I think it would feed a family of 6, which is amazing. So let's have a look. I'm just reading down my whiteboard here. The oil was about 10 cents worth. The onion was 50 cents. The garlic, the crushed garlic was 10 cents. The curry powder was 85 cents. The tin of tomatoes, and this was the supermarket brand, Chickpea, $1.20, and same with the chickpeas, was $1.20. And then the piece of chicken, I got that fillet on special for $3, and it was a really lovely big chicken fillet. And then the veggies were $1.95, 3 cups of veggies. So total that up, and it came to $9.90. So under $10 to feed a family of 6. And I know if you went to the local Indian takeaway, you'd never get takeaways for 6 people for under $10. And it's super quick and easy. If I can do it, anybody can do it, honestly. So one thing I'm going to do now, we'll just have a look at that curry. It probably should cook for a little bit longer, but I'm just going to show you how much it has made. So here we go. I've got a huge pot there, and it's so colourful and smelling so good, but I am going to leave it on the stove a little bit longer. And I really do think it would feed a family of 6. So what I was going to dish it up with was some brown rice. I've already got it here ready. Here it is, some brown rice. And we talked about grains in session 1. So brown rice is a grain, and it's still whole. It's still got the shell around it, so it's still a whole grain and still got all that goodness in it. So I was just going to dish up a serving of the curry onto that. And thinking about this curry, I know it's got chicken in it, and in the recipe you could make it with beef as well. But if you were a vegetarian, you could leave out the meat and just put in the chickpeas or the lentils or the red kidney beans or the chili beans. It would be lovely with chili beans. Yes, and you don't have to have the chicken or the beef in it. So, and then if you remember in session 1, we talked about if you don't have the meat, that how meat has all those building blocks of protein, it has all those amino acids, but these chickpeas and lentils and kidney beans are missing a few. But remember from session 1 that if you eat them with a grain, with a whole grain, then the whole grains have a few amino acids. So if you mix them together, you get all the building blocks, all the amino acids. So it's complete like a piece of meat. So you don't have to have the meat. You can just use the round beans or the legumes and leave the meat out if you're a vegetarian. And finally, it would be a great idea when you're cooking meat to trim the fat off the meat before you cook it, because it's so delicious. Once you've cooked it, you're not going to want to throw it away. So if you trim the visible fat off the meat before you cook it, you're getting rid of those saturated fats. And same with the chicken if you take the skin off, because all the chicken fat's under the skin. So just to wrap up the session, the good fats and oils are liquid, runny or soft at room temperature, and they come from plants and from fish. And the ones that are not so good for us are hard or thick at room temperature, and they come from animals and those two tropical oils, the coconut and the palm. So that's it for this week. Enjoy your curry with your family, and next session is going to be how we can cook healthily. What sort of method should we be using? And we're going to put together a stir fry together for the family. So see you next time. Thank you.